welcome to the Resources Roadhouse. I'm Wally and I'm in Singapore. I'm at the Tribeca Future Facing Commodities Conference, having a chat with Rod McIllree of White Cliff Minerals. Now, Rod, just before we came on air, we're having a quick conflab about what White Cliff's up to. You're up in Canada. You've got a couple of projects that you're really concentrating on up there. I can see you've got the Raid project, the Great Bear project. So let's see which one of those is taking precedence at the moment.
Yeah, look, it's funny. The Raid project is definitely my favourite. It is something that has both scale and grade. It's a geological model that you don't really find too often in the world. It's a sedimentary hosted copper situation.
Right.
And very high grade scenario here, very deep plumbing, structural sort of down to the mantle tapping, getting a lot of sort of copper rich fluids. So we're drilling that at the moment. We are seeing some interesting stuff come out of the ground, and we hope to sort of be able to be in a position to put some results out into the market in the next 4 weeks.
All right. So when you say you're drilling there at the moment, has there been privileged? Has there been previous drilling going on there? Do you already have a resource base there, or what's going on?
Yeah, there was one small resource. We ended up buying it actually not too long ago. This part of the world hasn't had any activity happen probably certainly for the last 15 years, and prior to that it was fairly spotty for the previous 70 before that. There hasn't been any drilling into the projects that we're currently drilling at the moment. We did buy a resource that was defined by several drill holes back in the 1960s.
Yep.
It was just under a couple of million tonnes of 3% copper, which anywhere else in the world will probably be a good platform to start a copper mine. But given the location and the sort of the isolation, the logistical challenges, we need a few more tonnes before we can sort of make that decision. But there's certainly indicative.
And I'd say you'd probably have to bring it to sort of modern standards as well, wouldn't you? We'd have to drill it up a little bit more.
Of course, we've got to bring this up to JORC 2012.
Yep.
We will put holes into it that will be designed to do that. So, look, our objective at the end of this particular season that's coming up, we've started, as I said, will be twofold: to resolve the final parts of the engagement with the local community. We have great relations with those guys. They're sort of servicing us on skidoos from the town nearby. But more importantly, really defining what this province means in terms of its potential. You know, we have 5 high priority targets here, the largest of which is sort of 200 square kilometres. I know that sounds crazy, but that's what these basins can deliver. Yeah. And we're not going to die wondering, right? We've got some holes going into these things, so by the end of September, I think we're going to have a very clear understanding of what we got.
Yeah. All right. So that's the Raid project, the Great Bear project. That's a good name for a project in Canada, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the Great Bear was actually one. Both of these projects, worth noting, were derived organically. So this was out of pure hardcore geological work that we sort of identified and then subsequently permitted these just by filling in application forms. So we didn't pay large amounts of money to vendors or street urchins that sort of purvey this sort of stuff. We found them ourselves. Great Bear has been historically identified. It's actually was a site of a uranium mine. It was a Department of Defence uranium mine back in the 40s and 50s for obvious reasons. And also there was a very large silver mine, produced about 35 million ounces of silver. This is an IOCG. It's basically a volcanic pile. Now, I won't bore your listeners with exactly what that means, but basically it means deep mantle tapping structures and very reactive rocks. And this iron oxide copper gold geological model is something that examples of Olympic Dam. I'm not saying that there's Olympic dams, but it's a similar mineralogy. And the Mines Department of Canada identified this Great Bear region and our licence holdings as, in their early studies in the 70s and 80s, as being the highest chance of iron oxide copper gold in all of Canada. So, look, we're on to 2 very interesting projects here. Drilling's underway at Ray. Drilling will start in earnest probably in 4 to 5 weeks at Great Bear. And we're going to go from there. So
it's quite interesting. You've got they're quite, let's say, remote projects, and because of their remoteness, is that why they probably haven't had much love over the years? Like, because from the 1960s and 70s, that's some time to be left with not much love.
It is.
So is it the remoteness that has caused that?
But been a barrier today. Look, there's a number of influences that have really affected the activity in this part of the world. Certainly Nunavut and their I guess, conflict with the federal government of Canada over the appropriate dispensation of rents, royalties and rates, right? So Nunavut and the Canadian government have been fighting almost toe-to-toe for the last 12, 13 years about who gets what from activities in Nunavut. And the Nunavut people in late 2023 received from the Canadian government, just basically folded and gave them the rights and responsibilities of all their mineral and hydrocarbons, thereby creating almost a state within a state in Canada. So for the last 10 years there's been no exploration because you haven't been able to get permits. Now that the Nunavuts are in charge of their own destiny, they're quite hungry for activity, so that's one positive. But I think sort of stepping back and looking at it from a sort of a 40,000 foot view, really does take a special kind of person to get in here and drill these things. You've got to have experience in this part of the world, and this isn't easy by any stretch of the imagination. It's expensive, it's difficult, it's challenging, and in certain instances it can be life-threatening, right? But this is the leading edge of the exploration industry. This is where the big boys are left. So this is why we're there. We think we're onto a couple of them. So you're going to see soon.
All right. Well, that all sounds quite interesting and fascinating. I am fascinated by the remoteness of where. I mean, the only reason you're buying tennis rackets is to put them on your shoes, basically. So all right. Well, make sure you stay in touch because this is, as I said, an interesting story and one I wouldn't mind finding out more of.
Keeping an eye on. Yeah. Look, just one last parting point. I think what's also worth noting is that we have airfields on all of our licences. So in this part of the world, everything's serviced by aeroplane, -7s, -8s. Fortunately, we have several 100-metre runways on all our project areas, thereby allowing very simple access from Yellowknife. So we're not too challenged logistically. Any further away from those airports becomes, order of magnitude more difficult. But look, we're going to be around for a while though, so we'll see you around.
You betcha. All right.
Cheers.
Thanks, Rod.
No worries.